Hello everyone, Steve Gage here, NASM certified personal trainer and co-owner of Engage Fitness. Today we're going to do an arthritis support focusing on muscles of the back and trying to eliminate some of that pain and discomfort we feel in the back. Not specifically just the lower back, just all over back discomfort we're trying to alleviate. So arthritis basically essentially is inflammation of a specific joint. It's not just one area of the body, it's just one specific joint or area of motion that is either overworked or there's areas of muscle tension around it, irritating that area, causing inflammation and discomfort. So specifically with the back, it's not just the lower back muscles located right here where we usually feel some of that tension. It might be caused by a lot of tension in other areas in the back that will affect the lower back, such as maybe even start all the way from the top where you have your upper back muscles, your middle traps, your rhomboids, your traps, all those things that are up here may even be caused by the lats, that muscle on the side. That big chunk of meat that's right on the side here might be too tight and giving tension to that lower back, or it might even be too low in the glutes as well as the hamstrings. All those things are connected, and if one is either off-centered or tight in one area, it affects the whole chain. I'm just going to lower my music a little bit. There we go. So we're going to start by stretching and increasing mobility in those specific areas. I'm going to start from the top and work our way down. So we'll start with the muscles towards the upper back, which is our middle traps, the rhomboids. All those muscles we kind of forget about because we don't see them in the mirror all the time. But a lot of the times, if those are tight or not lined up where they're supposed to be, it will affect the spine all the way down to the lower back, and that's where we'll feel that tension. So this stretch is really going to help separate all the tension we feel in the upper back. So we're going to start with getting our fingers interlaced just in front of us. Then we're going to switch the hands, pressing the palms outward. And with this stretch, we want to keep a slight bend in the elbow, and if we're able to get that straight arm, it's entirely whichever feels comfortable. We don't want to cause any tension right off the bat here. So with this, we're just pressing forward, just the point we feel. That's the end range of motion, and then we're just going to extend a little more. So with this, you want to get a slight round to the back, almost imagining you're trying to separate the shoulder blades in the back, trying to get them as far apart as you can, really giving that upper back a good stretch. And again, you can do this either standing or kneeling or even sitting. It's whatever feels most comfortable, because we want to have no tension or tightness anywhere else. We want to focus just stretching on the upper back here and really trying to bring those shoulders to roll forward, even getting a good arch in the back. You really want to feel the stretch across the upper back here. Really, again, separating those shoulder blades, stretching out, getting them able to move around back and forth, up and down, and rolling. You want to get them as free motion as you can. And we want to not have any tension there. Again, focusing on the breathing, not just holding the breath the entire time. We want to be able to relax, really feel those tight areas release. And then relax. And if this is an area that's specifically tight and you feel a lot of tension in that area commonly, you want to be able to do that probably 2 to 3 times a week, 15 to 20 seconds each hold. Again, each time we take a couple breaths, just try to increase that stretch just a little bit more. We never want to force it really fast to the point where we're pulling things out of the line. So next we're going to target that same area, but we're going to drop to the floor with this stretch. So we're going to be on all fours, and it doesn't matter which side you start with because we're going to do both sides. So we're going to pick one arm, keeping the knees and hips in line, and the wrist, elbow, and shoulder can be a little forward, but we don't want to have it way back here or way to the point where we're leaning forward. We want to keep that slight core engagement as well. So we're taking one hand, I'm going to start with my right, and we're just going to raise that hand as high as we can, and as the hand comes up, you want to switch, have the thumb rotate backwards, getting that thoracic spine stretch in the back, a lat stretch too, but this is part of the stretch. reach as far as we can, and then what we're going to do is reach that hand and thread it underneath, behind that hand that's still straight, and we're trying to get that shoulder down to the floor. So again, take this shape, slow and controlled, getting that shoulder, increasing the bend in that elbow, getting that shoulder to the floor. And this is really going to target, you'll feel that stretch from the lat, and also in the upper back too, as well. Really increasing that shoulder mobility as well. And with this stretch as well, you can move the hips around. You can give a slight turn, bring this hip that's lower, a little lower, or the opposite. If you bring that hip up a little more, you'll feel that stretch along the lat and the upper back. And same thing as before, we're going to hold this for 15 to 20 seconds. And if you want to add a little modification, you can get a little internal, external rotation in the shoulder here with bringing that hand behind. But that's entirely up to you. If that doesn't feel like it's going to serve you at all, that's totally fine. And then we'll relax. Return to that neutral position where the spine is neutral. And we'll raise that other hand. Again, just start small, palm is facing down. And as you come up, the thumb rotates backwards behind you. And you're opening up that chest. And then that arm threads right behind the other, dropping that shoulder to the floor. And if you're unable to get to the floor where this is your end range of motion, totally fine. Take this shape to where it suits you best. Don't try to force it because you think, I need to be at the bottom of this shape for this to work. If it's stretching something, it's working. That's the key. With stretching and mobility work, there is no, I need to have it here. It's okay, I can get to here. And that's it. And then try to work a little past your end range of motion. It's not a competition. It's more or less you're getting the most benefit out of the stretch. Because that's what the stretch is for. It's not for anybody else. It's for you. Again, playing with the hips. Try to get them a little straighter, a little higher. Got to play around with them a little bit. And then if we want to, again, getting that external rotation with the arm behind. And try to open up that chest a little more. And then bring it back in. Open up a little. Back down. And then returning back to neutral on all fours. Shaking off any tension we might feel in the low back, the upper back. Just stretching everything out. So next we're going to target the chest for a little bit, because again, if the chest is tight, it's going to pull your shoulders and upper back into that unnatural position, and then that's going to lead to tension all the way down your spine. So this is a simple stretch you can do, again, at home, watching TV, hanging by the couch or at your table. So with this, we're bringing the hands behind our back and we're interlacing those fingers again. And we want to keep a slight bend in the elbow with that arm, and we want to keep the arm in this shape the entire stretch. So first we're getting that slight core turn on, making sure we're not over leaning or leaning forward, keeping that neutral spine. Taking a breath, squeezing those shoulder blades together, and as soon as you squeeze those shoulder blades, you'll feel that chest and shoulders open up a little bit. And then what we're going to do is raise the hands slightly. Just get them away and up. And just pay attention to making sure your body doesn't lean forward, because you want to stop right before that point. And that's your end range of motion on this stretch. And vice versa, if you feel you're moving, the arms are moving, and you're starting to lean back, stop right before that point. We want to alleviate any pressure on the back. That's what we're trying to do with these stretches. Just raise those hands up. Really try to squeeze those shoulder blades together, really opening up the chest as the hands come up. And again, just finding that wall or point where you start to roll forward or backward and stop. Right there. Taking in those few breaths. And then relax. Rotating the shoulders, getting any tension out that we feel in there. And next we'll go down the body for our next muscle group. We're going to target the lats. So that's that muscle group that inserts pretty much under your armpit, all the way down to the back of your waist, or the lower back here. And if that's tight, that's going to add tension in your shoulders, your mid-back. You're not going to have full range of motion if things are tight. You're going to be restricted for mobility there, and that's going to affect, again, everything down the spine, and you'll feel, again, that lower back pain. So this is a simple side reach. Again, these are all mostly stretches that you can do sitting down, or just when you have free time watching TV, or at your desk and you're feeling a little bit of tension. So this, we're going to get the arm up, try to get it as close to your ear as possible. So we want to have it right next to the ear, not towards the front or way back here. Get it as close to in line with that shoulder. That's going to give us the most bang for our buck on that stretch. And again, you can do this kneeling, standing, whatever feels most comfortable. So what we're going to do is just reach across the other end of that room, making sure the hips are staying neutral. We're not dumping into that hip, keeping the hips neutral. Again, if you want to keep that other hand on the hip to make sure they don't move, totally fine. Now we're just going to reach, almost like you're trying to reach across to the other side of the room. And the farther you try to reach, the more stretch you're going to feel from the top of your arm, your shoulder, all the way down to your waist. Modification of this too is we can drop down to the floor and get one leg behind, so kneeling position. And again, don't have to force yourself into this shape. If this shape isn't going to work for you, then don't do it. This is just a modification to add a little bit of extra stretch. So we're getting this one leg at an angle, because that's increasing the angle between where the back lat inserts to where it starts. And we're just going to lean into that side. So if you lean into that side, again, increases that stretch in that lat. And then relax. And then we'll start with the other side again. Again, getting that arm in line with the ear and the shoulder. We don't want it too far forward, backwards, or too far forward, because we won't get as much stretch in that lat. And we're just gonna lean to the side. Again, if we need to, we'll take that bottom leg and get at an angle and lean even more. Really trying to reach to the opposite side of the room. Again, you can use the hips as well to lean to the side, really using the hip for that stretch. And then relax. So next we're going to incorporate a little bit of yoga into this stretch. So we're going to get in our child's pose position, so starting on all fours. So with this, depending on how your hips are built, because everybody's built differently, you may need to have your knees a little wider than hips, as long as we get into the shape we're looking for. So again, we're going to basically just sit back on our legs. So again, just rocking slowly back, just to the point where you feel that's enough, even if it's just a few inches. If you're particularly your quads are tight and you can only get to here, that's totally fine. Just hang out here for a minute. Again, just finding what works for you in these shapes. But if we're able to get all the way down to our ankles here, we're sitting down exactly like that. So next we're going to try to get to the floor. And again, if we're not there yet, that's totally fine. We're just going to have one arm crossing the body. So we're in our child's pose, sitting back on our legs. We're crossing one arm across, because again, that's going to create that elongated lat on the side here. And with the other hand, we're going to push against the floor and lean into that side. And what that's going to do again is work the body a little more into that stretch. And we're just leaning into that stretch. And if you're not feeling it that much in the lat, just simply crawl the hand across, kind of, again, increasing the angle of that lat and increasing the stretch. And just lean the body into that side, almost as if you're pushing against that side, really increasing that stretch of the lat. And if you want to use the opposite hand as well. This is essentially the same stretch we did with the side reach. We're just using a little more body language with this, and we're using the body to lean in more into that stretch. And relax. Then we'll return to that same position. All fours to start, and then just rocking back, sitting on your legs. And if you have any tenderness in your joints, or I know a lot of guys, sometimes the top of their feet are very tender and this is a little too hard of a surface, just put a pillow or blanket underneath your feet or knees, and it gives you that little bit of extra support. So again, we're getting into our child pose, and then we're just reaching across and using the other hand to push against into that side. And always making sure we're using those big inhales through the nose, holding it for a second, and you'll feel as you take in those breaths, you'll be able to get into that stretch just a little more, because what it's doing is it's first of all getting fresh oxygenated blood into those tight areas, and then it's helping you release them. Halfway there. So next for this stretch, we're going to be standing. This is going to target a lot of the lower back area as well as the glutes and hamstrings. So at this position, we're keeping a slight bend in the knee because we really want to target the low back on this one. And for this stretch, we're really just going to let the upper body hang loose. So we're just starting with the head and just letting it slowly drop. Almost imagine you're trying to curve the body one vertebrae at a time. So starting with the head, tucking in that shin, and just letting everything roll forward. Again, keeping that slight bend in the knee. And just letting everything hang down. Just finding that point where that's any tension you feel. So if it may be here, maybe all the way down, just take that shape to where you feel there's tension. Just holding it there. Taking those few inhales and then just see if you can lower that stretch a little more. And you'll feel if your legs at any point are straight and your knees are locked, you'll feel a lot more tension in the hamstrings. That comes later. We want to focus on the low back with this stretch. So we're here, slight bend in the knee, just letting the body hang down. And if you're to the point where your arms are to the floor and you can't go anymore, you can simply just grab opposite elbow with opposite hand in a ragdoll shape where we're just letting everything get pulled down. Hanging here for another few seconds. Again, focusing on those breaths. Even letting the head and shoulders be heavy. Let that body weight pull you down. And then we're going to come back up. And then as we come up, same thing we did when we went down. Try to imagine you're coming up one vertebrae at a time. Slow and steady. And then we return back to the starting position. Relaxing any tension we feel. Now we're going to switch to the posterior, the back rear part of the legs, because that's, again, a common area that causes back tension. You may not think that they're interconnected, but since they're so close in location, they definitely affect each other. Again, if your glutes are tight, they're gonna pull your back in an area that it's it's not natural, and you're going to try to compensate by overextending in a position and then add that lower back pressure. So we're going to show you how to loosen up those glutes and increase that lower back mobility. So this first stretch, again, this one is amazing and super beneficial, especially when you are sitting down at a desk, TV, dinner table. Anytime you're doing an extended period of sitting, this stretch is super beneficial for eliminating tension and increasing mobility in the hips, glutes, and the thighs. So with this, we're starting on our backs, legs bent. And again, we're going to do both legs, so it doesn't matter which side you start with. We're just going to get one leg up in the air, and then we're going to rotate the leg so the ankle is right above the opposite knee that's bent. So again, straight up with one leg, and we're going to rotate the knee out to the point where the ankle is right above the bent leg. So now next we're going to place our hand, same hand, and we're just going to slowly press down. We want to press above the knee. We never want to press on the knee joint. We're trying to actively avoid that. So just slowly press down on that leg so the leg rotates out. If you want to add a little bit more stretch, you can grab the ankle with the opposite hand and pull up. So essentially you're pushing down with this hand and you're pulling up with the opposite hand, getting that leg rotation. That's really going to hit a lot of the IT band and the glutes on the outside of your leg. And if you feel as if you're not able to get into this shape, you can simply just change it up by lowering the angle, increasing the angle, of this leg. So if you feel you're unable to get here, you're just too tight for the shape right now, just extend this leg out to lower the knee. So it makes it a lot easier to get into that shape. And then you can simply just increase the stretch by scooting that leg, that heel closer to your glute, increasing that stretch to the point where you can feel you can get into that shape. But again, as always, taking these shapes into what feels comfortable for you. And again, we're just pressing up with one hand and pressing down with the other. Really feeling that stretch in the outside and all the way up to the glute of that leg. Then we're going to relax, take this one step further. So next we're going to use both hands and grab behind the knee of the leg that's bent. And again, if you're unable to get into the shape, or you're unable to fit your hands through that gap, just try to get them to the point where you can lift this leg up. Because as you lift this knee up, you're going to feel this is going to work into that stretch even more, because the closer that ankle gets to the chest, the more of a hip stretch you're going to feel. Again, this is where making sure that ankle is below the knee, because if it's on the knee, that leg is just going to slide right off as you increase that stretch. Again, just pulling that knee to the chest, finding that point where there's that tension. Try to go just a little bit more. And then relax. And then we'll switch legs. Again, starting in our lower position, the leg just at a slight angle lower above the knee, and then scooting that ankle closer to the glute. We'll get that rotation where we're pressing up against the ankle and down right above the knee. We're really getting that rotation in that hip and the leg. And then we'll relax, and then we'll take that stretch even further by grabbing, again, right behind the knee. Or if you're able to, you can grab right below the knee on the lower part of the leg. Either way, we want to get that knee as close to the chest as we can, increasing that stretch. And relax. And again, this is a stretch you can do at home, sitting on the couch, watching TV, dinner table, at your office. Again, just same thing, getting that leg crossing where the leg ankle is right above the knee, and you just simply press down towards the floor and push up with that ankle. And that really gets that IT band, the outside of the hip, and the glute, and it releases all that, most of that tension. So next, we're gonna lie down on our backs again. I know everybody's super upset about it. So we're just gonna bring the knees as close as we can to the chest, both knees at the same time, and we're grabbing right below the knees, really trying to squeeze the knees into the chest, get them as high as we can. Again, what this is doing is it's stretching out the glutes. As we bring those legs up, all the muscles that are attached to the bottom of the leg are getting stretched along with the leg movement. And then relax. Maybe even getting a couple hip rocks in there too as well. Just rocking side to side. Getting any tension out that we feel. Even maybe some circles. Before we come back to neutral in the middle and relax. So next, this is definitely one of those good bang for your buck stretches. This is going to target the hips again, the glutes, as well as the lower back. So with this, we're lying down flat. I know, more lying on our backs, what a bummer. So getting, again, that leg up. Doesn't matter which one because we're doing both. And we're just gonna bring that leg across the body, allowing the hips to roll over. We wanna get this knee as close to the floor as we can. So the leg is up, making sure our shoulders stay flat on the floor. They're not rolling up as the body moves. Getting those legs to the floor. Allowing the hip to roll. And again, making sure those shoulders stay on the floor, because that's gonna be our anchor point. Because if we just allowed the shoulders to roll, we don't really get the lower back in with that stretch. And you'll feel as if as soon as those shoulders go back, you'll feel that stretch all from the low back all the way up to the middle of your spine. And again, trying to get that knee down, maybe using the hand to give it a little bit of assistance, but again, not forcing it down. We want these slow, controlled movements. Switch to the other side. Again, starting with that leg up in the air and just rolling it across the body, making sure those shoulders stay on the floor where you're at. And using that hand to give it a little bit of assistance. And if you like a little extra spinal stretch, you can just simply turn your head the opposite direction that knee is coming to the floor. And again, this is one of those shapes you can play around with, changing the angle of this leg. You try to get that leg a little higher maybe, a little lower, and you'll feel as you change that angle of the leg, it's going to hit different areas of the low back. Just find that sweet spot that works best for you. And release. And next we're going to hit the hamstrings. So this is a problem area for a lot of us, especially with the increased amount of sitting we've all been doing. So with this, we're getting into our lunge shape first. One leg in front, one leg in line with your hips. And again, if you have that arthritis, pain, and tension on the joints, just put a pillow or blanket underneath to give it that little bit of extra cushion. So the leg that's in front, we're going to extend that foot towards the front onto the heel. And making sure those toes are pointed backwards. That's really going to stretch out and tighten up that hamstring. So we're going to lower ourselves, if possible, to the floor with using our hand as that support. And we're just going to be leaning forward from the waist. We don't want to get that rounding shape. You want to keep that neutral spine and just leaning from the waist. That's the only part that's moving. And you'll feel as soon as you move from that waist, that stretch attacks those hamstrings. So you may not even need to drop all the way to the floor. For instance, my hamstrings are very tight. It's a problem area for me, so I don't have to move that far to stretch them and activate them. So we're just leaning forward, making sure those toes are pointed back, because you'll feel as soon as those toes relax, a lot of the tension comes off the hamstrings. I know it's uncomfortable, but we really want to target those hamstrings. That's another key factor for low back pain. And then just leaning in, slight lean forward, backing off a little bit, lean forward, and then back off. And then we switch to the other leg. Again, making sure we hit both sides. One may be more tense or tight than the other, but we still want to make sure we hit both sides. Again, just leaning from the waist. We're not rounding forward. We'll keep that slight core turn on, just hinging at the waist. Really feeling those hamstrings stretch. And then relax. Well, thank you for joining me, everybody. Hopefully these stretches help alleviate some of your back and as well as other back pain, tension you feel. Again, a couple exercises every couple days. I'm not saying you have to do all these every single day because then it's overload. Small steps, a couple of stretches here and there. Find out what works for you and implement those into your routine. Thanks again for joining me. Be safe, be kind, and choose to be well. Take care, guys.